Do you know the dining taboos in Japan, France, or China? Dining is a matter of survival, but in every culture, it becomes a form of communication and a vessel of spiritual values. A meal can connect or disconnect depending on how well one understands the unspoken don'ts at the table. In Japan, sticking chopsticks upright in rice is taboo, recalling funeral rites. In China, flipping a fish is seen as bad luck. In France, splitting the bill equally can seem unsophisticated. So we might ask, do dining taboos reflect something deeper, such as each culture's view of courtesy, relationship, and collective identity? A misplaced chopstick can misplace an entire conversation. Knowing dining taboos is not just about manners, it's a way of honoring the cultural soul of those you share a table with. One of the elements that makes a meal so culturally significant lies not just in the food but in the shared space and interaction between those seated at the table. However, each culture has its own set of expectations regarding how to behave in that shared space, often known as implicit norms, with taboos acting as the invisible boundaries between respect and offense. In Japan, placing chopsticks vertically in a bowl of rice is a grave taboo, as it symbolizes a funeral rite. Even if no one mentions it aloud, that one gesture can shift the tone of the room and potentially affect the budding relationship. In Japanese culture, where silence and nonverbal nuance govern interactions, taboos are not written laws but codes of subtlety. In France, splitting the bill equally can seem impolite in close relationships, where hosting a meal signifies intimacy and social role. In China, flipping a fish is considered bad luck, especially in coastal regions, since the act symbolizes capsizing a boat. These taboos are not superstitions. They reflect the deep cultural frameworks of each society: ancestral reverence, social hierarchy, and communal harmony. Understanding what not to do at the table does more than avoid misunderstandings. It demonstrates refinement, sensitivity, and the humility to enter another's cultural space. Taboos, in essence, are not meant to restrict, but to preserve the sacredness of values passed down through generations. While some may view taboos as obstacles, anthropologists see them as invisible maps that guide individuals in how to exist respectfully within a specific cultural space. At the dining table, taboos serve as a silent language that communicates one's place, rank, and intimacy level with others. For instance, in Chinese culture, a meal is more than food, it's a social blueprint. Elders sit in central positions. Juniors don't reach for the best dishes first, and pouring drinks for others precedes pouring for oneself. This isn't just etiquette, it's moral training, teaching individuals how to situate themselves in a collective, avoid conflict, and demonstrate respect. Similarly, in France, beginning a meal before the host invites you is a breach of decorum, as it disrupts social order and the rituals tied to civility. In Japan, slurping loudly or pouring soy sauce directly onto rice is not only rude, but also a sign of lack of control and grace. These examples show that dining taboos aren't meant to punish, but to preserve an ethical ecosystem, where each person knows their place and responsibility. And if we understand this, we don't just behave correctly, we live consciously. The refinement in observing dining taboos is the first step toward entering another's world with respect and deep cultural insight. When exploring dining taboos, we often focus on surface-level rules like not sticking chopsticks upright, not flipping a fish, or not starting before the host. But few ask, why do these rules exist? The answer lies deeper in the life philosophies of each culture. In Japan, silence, self-restraint, and respect for shared space are foundational values. Thus, any behavior that's loud, overly expressive, or disruptive is seen as lacking grace. Taboos here are not about control, they're about preserving harmony, known as wa. In China, a meal isn't just for nourishment, it's a social performance infused with hospitality, hierarchy, and feng shui. Flipping a fish isn't simply superstition, it disrupts the symbolic flow of a smooth journey, tied to work and family harmony. In France, keeping hands on the table or asking before adding salt aren't just about etiquette, they reflect the spirit of savoir-vivre, the art of living well and respecting shared norms. Each taboo is a small cultural accent, but it carries a large life philosophy: to to live with self-awareness, communal balance, and the belief that refined behavior safeguards the human bond. Thus, understanding taboos isn't about fearing mistakes, it's about understanding people. One of the reasons dining taboos are hard to grasp, especially for outsiders, is because they're not written, not taught explicitly, but passed on as a kind of second language, conveyed through silence, glances, and subtle discomfort. When a French host sees you sprinkle salt before tasting the food, they may say nothing, but their surprised look can shift the mood. In Japan, passing food from chopstick to chopstick resembles funeral rituals, and while no one scolds you, cautious glances circulate. In China, serving yourself before elders might not be corrected, but it may draw a silent sigh of disappointment. This is the mechanism of social grammar, where meaning lies not in speech but in the space between gestures. What's significant is that outsiders may miss these cues unless they truly observe and feel. Not knowing these taboos can lead to miscommunication and make others feel disrespected, even if the offender means no harm. Therefore, learning culture is not just about information, it's about sensitivity. Taboos, though minor, are a test of our social awareness and grace. Respecting them does not erase personal identity, it demonstrates humility, adaptability, and a genuine wish to connect across cultures. To understand dining taboos correctly, we must first reframe our perception. Taboos should not be seen as irrational prohibitions, but as concentrated expressions of social intelligence lessons learned over generations and passed down to preserve cultural balance. At the dining table, every gesture is a message. If we look closely, dining taboos serve a dual function. They are tools of social regulation and instruments of moral education. In Japan, not pouring soy sauce directly onto rice isn't just a rule, it's a reminder to respect the thoughtful preparation of food. In France, starting to eat before others are served can be seen as selfish, since dining is viewed as a collective journey. In China, pouring tea for elders isn't merely polite, it's a method for maintaining family hierarchy. These examples reveal that taboos reflect a convergence of tradition, refinement, and emotional intelligence. Following them doesn't restrict individual freedom, it enables wordless understanding and builds trust across cultural divides. This is crucial in global communication, diplomacy, international education, and ethical tourism. A person who respects cultural taboos may not be a cultural expert, but they are always a welcomed guest. In today's globalized world, it has become easier than ever to travel, study, and work across borders. Yet this new ease brings an important challenge. How do we avoid bumping into someone else's culture without realizing it? Here, the understanding and respect for taboos, especially subtle ones like chopstick use, seating order, or bill etiquette become essential life skills. The ability to identify what not to do is more than politeness. It's the foundation of cultural respect and global dialogue. In reality, many intercultural misunderstandings do not stem from malice, but from unintentional insensitivity. An international student who begins eating before others in a French household, or a tourist who taps their chopsticks on a bowl to summon service in Japan, such actions may cause subtle cultural dissonance, harming relationships without the actor even knowing. Crucially, understanding taboos doesn't require deep cultural theory, it requires listening, observing, and humility. In global dialogue, from diplomacy to daily interaction, the one who knows when not to act is often the most respected. Respecting taboos is not the erasure of identity, it is a civil gesture of readiness to enter another's world with care. And on the intercultural journey, it is often what we choose not to do that leaves the deepest impression of understanding. Every meal, whether in a restaurant, at home, or during an international conference, is a cultural stage. There are no directors or scripts, yet each act, from how one holds chopsticks, pours water, to how one waits, contributes to a story of character, understanding, and respect. On this stage, dining taboos are like invisible lines that preserve harmony. One does not need speeches to appear civilized, just knowing not to plant chopsticks upright in rice, not to flip a fish, not to taste before elders, or not to split the bill in France without context, is already a sign of cultural attentiveness. These small acts do not erase identity, they reflect a global self, one that knows how to live with others, to care at the right moment, and to remain silent when needed. In a world rife with tension over difference, those who pause before unintentionally crossing the line are the ones who build the strongest bridges. Perhaps the deepest form of respect is not saying "I understand you," but quietly choosing not to do what would hurt you. A correctly placed pair of chopsticks, a glance that waits, a tea-pouring hand that follows the right order, these are unspoken gestures, composing the cultural symphony our world deeply needs. A dining table hosts more than food. It's where we relearn how to live, how to observe, wait, respect, and enter another's world with intentional silence. Taboos don't make meals tense, they make them sacred. For to understand taboos is to understand where another places their center of reverence. Next time you sit at a table in a foreign culture, don't ask, "What should I do?" Ask, "What should I not do so no one feels hurt?" Sometimes, your timely silence may be the kindest greeting a culture ever needs.